So now we're going to talk about how to do a touch-up with foil highlighting. So if your guest had a highlight maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago, and she comes in and she has a regrowth line, and you know you're not going to be foiling the whole panel or the whole strand, here's how we go through doing the touch-up on the foils. So a lot of times I'll start in the front where the hair is a little bit more fragile, and I'll start with a lower volume developer and use, for example, Flash Lift in 20. And as I go through the touch-up, about halfway through, I'll remix with Flash Lift in 30. My hot tip here is always mix an ounce of lightener at a time. Even if you have to remix over and over again, then you're always working with fresh lightener and you don't have anything that's gone stale after 20 or 30 minutes of oxidation. So avoid mixing large batches of lightener and start getting the habit of mixing smaller batches of color or lightener when you're foiling and highlighting especially. So I might start with 20 volume, work up to 30 volume, or start with 30 volume, work up to 40 volume. So in general, if I'm doing a color touch-up, a foil highlight, I'm gonna show you on this quadrant. And a lot of times when I'm working with my associate will start the foil touch-up highlight on the other side of the head. So if I'm working the front right side and my guest, she's gonna be standing on the back left side and she foils exactly like me. I might show her where to start. If we're gonna do a partial, she'll start below the crown. She also might, if she's doing a full, she'll start on the hairline on the back and maybe start with some baby lights on the hairline. So in general, the way we do a touch-up is we'll go through, we'll do the weave similar to how when we were weaving the whole strand. And I always use my tail comb, but towards the tip of, towards the root area, right? So I'll look and see, make sure I've got enough that's gonna go in the foil, because if I have a heavy blonde and I'm doing the touch-up, I wanna make sure enough is going in the foil to look like it's gonna melt together well. So once I've determined that I have the right amount to go into the foil, I use a foil roller so I can pick short foils if I need. Attach my foil to the head. And I'm still gonna start a little farther away from the scalp area. And then I'm gonna use this same brush, same amount to go up close at the end with an almost dry brush. And we're just pretending right now that her regrowth is about that long. She's about 2.5 inches long. So when I'm doing her regrowth, I'm gonna leave out the blonde ends that's previously blonded. And I'm gonna do a sandwich foil. This way, it stays compact, it stays safe. If you feel like the hair's too fine, you can also do a comb press to make sure to lock it in a little bit better, and then move on to your next section. When you go through and weave this, make sure that your ends are combed out nicely before you start so that you don't have a lot of snags in the hair when you go through doing your foil retouch. I'm using Flash Lift with her today. And again, I'm just doing her color retouch. If I see that there's 1 or 2 brown pieces that I want to pick up and actually run through, I can do that by turning my brush vertical. And again, making sure when I do the top that it's just with an almost dry brush so it blends really nicely when it grows out. Again, I can use my sandwich foil technique to keep it covered. That way it doesn't get mixed up. And the hair that I don't want to get touched, it won't get touched. It'll stay safe and protected. The other thing that's really good for this technique too is if you're doing a color retouch for a foil, and let's say you have 2 different shades of color you want to use. For example, maybe she likes a shadow root. So we may use 8N or 8T on zone 1. Right? Let's just pretend here that that's what this is, right? And then I'll use Flash Lift in 20 for zone 2. That way, you can almost create like the beginning of a shadow root when you're foiling, because when you do the sandwich technique, you won't mix up the 2 different formulas because again, they're both protected. I can also take the ends of the tail, push that foil back up, make sure it's nice and tight, it's not gonna slip, and lock it in. The other reason that's good to do the back flap, I'll just show you what could happen, for example. So let's say you have your your flap on the back. You put it in to the hair and you go to swipe down and do your color touch up, right? Or your highlight touch up. And let's say your hand slips a little bit. So if your hand slips a little bit and you've got your top on there, you can always reach underneath and push that flap up a little higher so that you can protect the root from getting any bleed marks. So again, I love to use the back flap technique as an insurance policy, and I use the sandwich foil technique to do my touch-ups because it really helps with keeping the hair isolated from having any lightener touching it where I don't want it to be. So if you're confident that you can go through now and do your foil touch-up in this way, then go ahead and do that and then turn it in as a video, and good luck to you.